Good morning. Welcome to another great episode of Money Truth Moments with Judy Copenbarger. Good morning, Judy. Welcome. How are you?
Oh, I am awesome. What a great week. I'm so excited to be here.
Great. I've been looking forward to today. We have a jam-packed show. I know we have a lot of things to discuss. I know you're also going to be sharing a lot of great things that you have happening also coming up. So what do you say we just jump right into it?
I am ready. Let's go.
All right. So folks, if you're joining us, please make sure that you are connected with Judy at judycopenbarger.com. Below, you can see her website and make sure that you follow her. There's also a special offer if you put in judycopenbarger.com/truth, and we'll get to a little bit of that a little later in the show as well, too. But we are continuing to talk. We had a great discussion last week on great topics about the missing piece in money. And we're going to continue talking a little bit about that this week. And one of the things that came up for this week, what is the truth about money for all times, right? So in your grounded wisdom, it is the strength that it strengthens families. So the question is, who is really telling the truth, especially in these times? And like I said, it's a jam-packed show and we're off to the races.
Wow. Who is telling the truth about money in these times? Wow. Well, I don't think it's special to these times, actually. There are people in the financial industry at every level all the time. So you've got your bankers, you've got your insurance folks, your real estate people, mortgage people, investment advisors, wealth managers, financial planners. You have this whole spectrum of people and firms that are in the financial industry. And I don't think any of them are less or more busy than normal. People always need these skills and they always need these resources. So I don't think it's necessarily more or less relevant right now. Now, it might feel like that for a lot of people because many people are going through transitions. We talk about the plan B or the new normal or the, rebooting, all that. So I think it feels different, but I think that the information and resources are stable. They're the same. So with that being said, I think we have to look at of the financial industry elements that we have out there, who normally tells the truth and why would they either tell the truth more or less in a time like this? I think it's the same. So we have to kind of look at where you would find truth tellers when it comes to who's going to really give you advice that you can implement at your house and get a good result, get the outcome that you want. And I think the first place to look would be fiduciaries, because a fiduciary by law has to give you advice that's good for you, and they have to prove it on paper to the regulators. I mean, you can't just say, you should do this because I get a commission. You have to say, this is what's good for you, and here's why. Here's your risk tolerance. Here's your alignment with your goals. Here's your age. Here's the objectives that you have. Here's the other options that you have and why we chose this one to recommend to you. A fiduciary works for you, whether you pay them directly or not. And usually they are paid directly. So you know exactly what you're paying, which is another way of getting the truth. Transparency in fees, for sure. So I think fiduciaries would be the first place to look. And how you would know if you had one would be if they are a SEC fiduciary, if they're an AIF, that's an investment fiduciary. So at least when it comes to investing and retirement accounts and stock and bond portfolios, the recommendations and the fee structures have to be disclosed and optimized for you on paper in a proven plan. So that's probably the first place I would go. That would be an AIF, accredited investment fiduciary. The second layer would be at least someone who's gone to college, that studied money, not just took a class or, got some initials by their name. And
Judy, before you go on to the second part, if I may, for our younger audience, some of the folks that are out of college who don't know really what a fiduciary is, if you can just explain that for them before we get further into this.
Yeah. A fiduciary by law has to do the best thing for you. They can't just sell you something because they're going to get paid. They have to give you advice that's good for you and then back it up in writing. right? So you have
Gotcha.
choices. Like you could buy insurance from this company or insurance from this company. You're going to buy this one based on my recommendation because here's why it's best for you. You're going to invest in these stocks in an IRA account, like in a retirement account. You would choose these stocks over these stocks. Here's why. This is why it's better for you, right? So things like that. So that's a fiduciary.
Got it. Thank you.
The second layer, you're welcome. You're welcome. The second layer, I would go to someone who's at least educated about money. They had to go to college. They had to, take some extra beyond college, either grad courses or credential courses. And I think the most available planner would be a CFP. You may have heard CFP, that's Certified Financial Planner. And a CFP is the only financial advisor delegation that requires at least an undergraduate degree. So they had to go to college, they had to finish what they started. And then beyond that, there's quite a bit of education and a series of exams to get that. So a certified financial planner is going to be someone who's versed not only in investments, not only in insurance, not only in taxation, like tax planning. They have to learn all of that. And I remember going through school. I fortunately, I already had attended law school, and I had extra credentials in taxation and estate planning from law school. And I remember going through the courses live for the Certified Financial Planner program, and everybody was pulling their hair out when it came to trust and taxes and succession and estate planning. And I mean, taxation, it's not just like income tax. There's lots of taxes that impact us every day and very convoluted rules around that. And I remember thinking I was so grateful that I had gone to law school and spent an extra several years ahead of the game to learn that, because it is very voluminous and very cumbersome. So people that have, and then you pass the test, right? The test is a pretty, it's like taking the bar exam for lawyers. It's a very low pass rate and a very high commitment rate to achieve that goal. So if you're working with a certified financial planner, they know what they're doing, or at least they at one point knew what they were doing. So that would be a really good place to look as well for someone that at least knows the advice to give you. Now, there's no guarantee that the advice is not going to be self-interested. And you'd like to look at everyone who's educated and giving you advice as someone who's honest and forthright and transparent. But honestly, the industry is not transparent. And it's just built that way. All of the series of trainings, the series of protocol, it's really designed not to be transparent. And so in recent years, there's regulation to require a little more transparency, and that's a good thing. The thing about regulation is sometimes the government goes too far, ties their hands.
Right.
Ask doctors how they like it, right? So,
right.
So I would say those would be a good place to start. A CFP, someone that has a fiduciary credential of some kind. And then I think if you're really looking for who tells the truth, anyone in the financial industry that is coming from why, instead of just how to do it, here's what you need to do, here's the activity. Anyone who's coming from why are we doing it anyway? What's the outcome? Why are we here? What's the purpose? What's it for? I think anyone who comes from that angle is going to be really on the right path to giving you an honest answer and implementation that will work for you and your family. And it'll be something more in alignment with truth and your truth, the money truth, right? And so that might be, there are several courses and several books and trainings out there that come from a more of a faith-based, like a biblical perspective. I think those, you're getting a lot of the why, why you want to get money right, stewardship issues and things like that. You'll get a lot of the what the Bible says and how you can, apply that at your house. What is really missing with a lot of those trainings, and really why I'm doing the work that I'm doing, is, well, how do I do that at my house? Of course I want to give more. Of course I want to save. Of course I want to leave an inheritance for my grandbabies. But how do I do that at my house? How much should I save? And how much do I need to earn? And how much can I afford to give away? And if I have a choice between spending money right now on my lifestyle and my housing and my travels, how much should I be spending on that? And then how much should I allocate for my future and then the future of my grandkids and my legacy? How do I do that? So the thing with some of these really great courses and books and trainings are they'll give you, the heart. I want to do that.
Right.
I want to really finish well. I want to create that. But how do I do it? When I get my paycheck and I spread out my bills on the dining room table and I'm working on my taxes, how do I take the next step? What's my right next step? And I think finding people in that world to give you the truth is no problem, but to give you a relevant truth is a problem. Great. So I need to save $500 a month extra. Well, how do I do that? Where's it going to come from? I can't, what am I going to squeeze to get it out?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I created Money, Truth, and Life. But I think what Money, Truth, and Life does well is it says, okay, now you have the heart, you have the why, you know what to do. Here's how to connect the dots. Here's what you need to do next at your house with your income, with your circumstances, with your goals, with your family. Here's what you do now. Here's what you do next and when. Here's what you do after that. It's a very specific action plan that you're going to put together and then implement it so you'll get the results that you want.
Excellent. That's a lot of great content that you're providing for us, and I think really it explains that very well too. One question I had for you though too, as we're talking about this, you did mention that there's not everybody really is telling us the truth, right? And I think the approach that, at least from my experience, what I've experienced personally, has been that it's a cookie cutter system that somehow or another I'm trying to get to fit right into this mold, which all joking aside, I'm a big dude. I wouldn't fit in that small mold. You know what I mean? But it's the same concept. And I look at finances, and I think a lot of folks can relate. It becomes really scary because, first of all, you don't know the finance world, and that's why you're looking for help. Number two is you have folks that are talking way above what your understanding is, and it's almost I normally compare that to technology as well, because being in the information tech world, I always talk to folks like I like to be explained. I always tell people, hey, pretend I'm a 4-year-old. You're going to break this down for me so I get it, And I think that's the lack of what's happening out there, specifically in the finance industry, where it's a scary world. I mean, that's the reality. I'll be the first one to tell you, just because there's a lot of unknowns. You don't know how to invest. You don't know, what type of accounts to open. And we talked about this in previous shows, but it's always great to have someone like you who actually takes the time to explain it. And I think that's something that's very valuable for folks. I think it's something that I'm sure we all have horror stories. I mean, I could sit here and tell you so many folks who have tried to get me into that finance, even to the point of or trying to get me to become a financial planner. And it's like, I have no clue, man. My whole world is tech. I'm not ready to make or even want to make that transition, but it's out there, and that's the reality. And I think it's a great point that you brought up. And maybe you can expand a little bit of some of the things that maybe we should be looking out to just be really careful when we're speaking to a financial planner, and some good things that, a sound financial planner, there's buzzwords that you can hear where, somebody's quote unquote telling you the truth, as opposed to just somebody that just wants your business as a client, just another number on the wall,
Yeah, you're right. And it's an industry that really has built-in conflict of interest everywhere. Most people related at all in the financial industry are paid they're the sales force. They're the front for the companies that are making a lot of money and building cities. Really. So it's not a bad thing. It's just how it comes at you. So most people get any financial information or education from people that are trying to sell them something. And that's not a bad thing. It's just something to be aware of. You always want to consider the source. Why am I receiving this advice? Why are they pushing so hard for me to do this? The why, right? So what's my why? Not their why. They want to get paid. but what's my why? How does it fit with my family's goals and with where I'm headed? So I think that transparency, could be taken up a notch. If you always consider the source, why are they giving me this advice and how does it really fit in with my plans? If they can connect the dots for me that way, then it's probably a good conversation to have. But if it's, oh my goodness, you got to do it, you're going to miss the opportunity. If there's any urgency, if there's any rush at all with anything financial, run the other way, because it's probably
Gotcha.
not a real urgency for you. My husband is a tax attorney as well. And so I will often hear him say, any time it comes to money, you never want to be in a hurry. That's when you make the mistakes. And I
Right.
totally agree with that. You take your time. If you can't, if you get 20 emails a day from the guy that wants to sell you whatever, his new stock deal or his REIT deal or his insurance or whatever, that's probably one that you want to block and say, give me a week to think about it, pray about it, talk to my family, check and make sure it's good advice for me before I make, the next move or make a decision. And if there's all this urgency, that should be an indicator for you that it might not be a transaction that's good for you, or maybe not good for you right now. And there might be another reason for the urgency that's maybe not your reason. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to throw
Absolutely.
anybody under the bus. I think there's a lot of great people in the financial industry. I
Absolutely.
work with many of them. But it's just there's room because people are vulnerable and they don't have the basic knowledge. And it's not to blame them. It's just there's a lot. I mean, just for tax,
Hmm.
it's been 30 years just trying to figure out the tax rules, and then they change, right? So
Right.
I think it's there should be no shame or no pain around that. But I think it's just an awareness. I think will really be helpful. Ask a little bit more questions. Surround yourself with people that really come from the heart of why this is good for you or why it will propel you forward, rather than what do we need to sell. It's kind of like if they're selling hammers, you're a nail, right? So
Hmm.
everybody needs this product, everybody needs this service because you're all the same. Like you said, I'm not like everybody else. I won't fit in that, the square peg in the round hole. I won't fit in that
Hmm.
form that you're trying to cram me into. But from the sales side, from their perspective, they need everybody to be like this because they're going to sell them this and solve their problem. So it's just an awareness that I think would be helpful as a basic money truth for people. Transparency, work with fiduciaries, people that really have your best interest and have to. I think a lot of them also want to, but if they're forced to, then it just brings a little more integrity to the system.
Is in this, you may know this, or and if you do, this is great. But if not, this is something we can get back to folks on too. But is there a way for folks to kind of do their homework on a fiduciary? For example, if we want to go to a great restaurant, we look up Yelp, right? We look at the Yelp reviews and all of that.
Yeah,
I'm sure there has to be something in that same context for the finance world as well too. It may be
absolutely.
something that we're not aware.
Yeah, there are many, depending on the regulation stream that your advisor
Hmm.
is in. So the SEC governs the registered investment advisors, people that you pay to manage your money and give you advice. And so that's SEC. If it's a smaller advisor, it's not a great big firm that you would know, it's a smaller one, then it's regulated by the state. And so then there's FINRA, FINRA, and FINRA rules apply to people that are dealing in securities. So IRA accounts, stocks and bonds, and any security that has a level, an element of risk to it, pretty much, that's going to be regulated by FINRA. And all of these regulation sites have a list of all the people who have all the licenses and credentials, and they will let you know if they've done something they shouldn't have, and if they're in good standing. Then you have, for a fiduciary, you have the accredited investment fiduciary, AIF. There's a board for that,
Hmm.
and they test everybody.
Okay.
They make sure they are in good standing. So you can go to the AIF and look up advisors and see if they're there, or choose one from a site like that. And then there's a significant board and website and a whole background. There's even marketing going on now for the CFP. If you want a comprehensive planner, that'd be a certified financial planner, and it's cfp.org, I believe. So you can look on the CFP site and you can find out who's in good standing, who's gotten themselves in trouble, how long your advisor has been registered, how long they've been working, and where they've worked. So there's a lot of good information online for people to do a little background check. If it's someone that's in the area of insurance, every state has a site that tells you who they are and if they're behaving or not, and how long they've been in business. And then you can also look at a government site that pulls all the states together. So if you just Google insurance agent check, you'll find all the sites there. And I would go specifically to the state that you're in. That's probably the easiest way to find them and what they've been up to. And if they all of a sudden are a subject matter expert and you go to a class or a free dinner or something like that, and they're like, oh, they look so good and they got the sharp suit and they smell good. And then you find out they've done this for 2 years and had 20 other jobs, that would be good to know, right? Before you buy whatever they're selling next. So I think those are some things that would be really helpful for people to just know, going in and then consider the source. Do they have the expertise they need to help me? Do they want to help me? Are they available to help me? And do they really want to? Like, is my interest as important, at least, as theirs?
No, that's awesome. I really appreciate you sharing that because, like I said, a lot of us who are also watching are not really familiar with some of these tools that are out there. And I think this makes it a little bit, soothes your fear a little bit of actually talking to someone when you have your homework done. So I think this is great too. Yeah. Folks, if you're just joining us, we've had a great conversation. We've been talking about who is telling the truth. Please follow Judy at judycopenbarger.com. If you put the /truth also, there's a special offer for you as well for Judy. So make sure that you are following her on social media. She's on Facebook, she's on LinkedIn, and all of the good stuff too. What I want to do also, since we're talking about this, is text Judy at 55444 with the word truth. And you're going to receive a special link from Judy. It's going to give you some amazing content. And that's where I'm going to leave it because you have to text 55444 with the word truth. Also in the same breath, I'd like to say again, congratulations on having the #1 bestseller book on Amazon.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That's been great.
Yeah.
Money, Truth, and Life, folks, has been just a game changer as far as the finance industry and what Judy actually offers. And she's been talking about for the last several months here on the show. So if you're not following, again, make sure that you follow her at judycopenbarger.com or share out the stream as well with your friends, because like I said, there is a lot of great content. So with that said, I'd like to move up to our favorite part of the show, I would call it. Not that this is it, but it's our Money Truth Moment Challenge. Last week, that's right. Last week, we had a really great challenge. There was a 4-part question to it. I'm going to remind folks a little bit what it is. And I like to talk a little bit about it because you took me down a path where it's like, oh, man, I remember all that. Like it was just yesterday, Wow. So let me tell you folks what we talked about, and feel free to jump in anytime, Judy, with this too. So there was 4 things for this challenge. One was when you were about 10 years old, what were your beliefs when it came to regards for expenses, earnings, money in general, period. Second part of that is what were the adults around that time sharing about money? What do you remember about that too? The third part of it was a belief that doesn't serve you well. One example that you gave was, money's hard to get, money's hard to earn, or whatever that was. And number 4 is, how do you change that belief, right? How can you make it and substitute it for something more positive? So let me tell you how I did this challenge, right? So when I was about 10, actually, this took me even further back. I remember growing up and my dad always working hard. My mom always working hard. My dad, I've said this before on the show, was the kind of guy that would tell me that if you have $2, you save one, you spend one. For me, it was never really got that concept as a kid. As a kid, it was more about, hey, I just did my chores. I earned $1. Let me go to the arcade and play Pac-Man, right? That was like the thing to do back then. So didn't think about anything else. Right, exactly. Right. But I did note, I mean, and kind of looking back at all this, I did notice just how smart my dad was in really planning out the future. You know, all of the savings. You don't think about this growing up, and you think more about, you know, man, you know, I can't buy this because my dad won't let me. And my dad was very big too about not following the crowd when it came to trends. You know, like all my friends would go, you know, they would have like the Nikes, all the name brand bags and all of this. And my dad would take us to Payless. You know, I'm not ashamed to say that. You know, it wasn't the fact that he couldn't buy us those shoes. It was more about the fact that don't follow the same trends of folks. You are who you are, and it doesn't matter, you know, what people think or what you're wearing. They're not going to judge you by what you're wearing. They're going to judge you by who you are as a person. So that's always kind of stuck to me, you know. As far as like what adults were talking about, I remember there was conversations about, you know, the savings. What are we going to do with this money? How are we going to fix the car? How are we going to get to the next level? You know, my parents made the sacrifice of sending my sister and I to private school. So I know that was also a huge struggle for them, you know? And again, it kind of goes into that, just making sure that they had enough for food, they had enough for school, they had enough for clothing and all of that. And like I said, it's back then I didn't really realize. I thought my parents were just being cheap. You know what I mean? It's like, man, you just don't want to buy me this, right? But I get that now as an adult, you know, because it's changed the mindset. So on the third part of it was a belief that doesn't serve me. And I think this actually goes back to where when I was thinking about launching my business, right? I think when we all start, we all want to, you know, just be real kind and give away our gifts like dirt cheap, right? Because we know what we can do. We know that we are good at what we do. But in order for folks to kind of learn that, you know, you're kind of giving away, and this is someone taught me this, is you don't give away your gifts for free. There has to be value in everything that you put. And it's a scary thing because as you're starting, right, and I'm sure you've heard this story from a lot of folks, you know, you're trying to generate as much connections as possible. And how you do that is sometimes you're selling yourself short, right? So for me, that mindset was more like, am I really worth this, right?
Yeah.
And I could tell you, you know, that for me is, you know, I have the education, I have the background. I joke that I've been a nerd since 13, right? That was my first introduction to computers. And it's been something that I've been very passionate about. And so the way I changed that is, yes, I am worth this. I am good at what I do, right? And I do it out of kindness, and I do it because I also want to help people. It doesn't mean that I'm going to extort people doing what I do. And that was the mindset change. And the moment I started thinking in those terms, like we said before in your example, it just started attracting different opportunities, different folks that really value my expertise, value what I can offer them, value where I can take them to the next level. So I want to thank you for that challenge because it really took me down a path where it's like where I've been, where I was, where I am, and where I'm going. You know, to me, it was very powerful. So that's what I wanted to share.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I love that you kind of like one day woke up to the value that you're creating for other people. And that when people get that, it's like, oh my goodness, I can still help and I can still do my charitable work and, you know, just be a blessing to other people. But darn it, I'm valuable and people need what I have and they should pay for that. They're happy to pay for that.
Right.
My clients say, is it time to pay yet? Is it time to pay yet? Is my fee due? I mean, it's just amazing as opposed to in retail, it's like, oh, I have to do you know, it's just it's amazing the different mindset when you just know the value's there. Then the next trick for people in business or these entrepreneurs is finding the people that are looking for what you have, right? Which is a lot of what you're doing for people. But yeah, I love that you woke up to your value and continue to just do that and offer that. I love that. Great job.
Oh, thanks. And so now that brings us to our new challenge, right? And I can't wait to hear about this.
Okay. Challenge for this week. Are you ready? Drum roll.
Let's do this.
Okay. So for 1 week, every day, so starting today, this is day 1, and we got 6 after this, you're going to write down a few things, pen and paper. There's something valuable about articulating from your brain to your hand to the pad of paper. So you got to write it down with a pen. It can't be a note in your phone. Okay. So that's the first thing. It helps to also say out loud what you're writing. But here's what I want you to write. There's a couple of points here. The first one is write down something that's tangible that you're grateful for. I'm grateful for my house. I'm grateful for my car. I'm grateful for my bike. I'm grateful for the money that I have in the bank, right? So something tangible that you're grateful for, at least one thing. Doesn't have to be a whole journal entry, but one thing. The next thing is to write down something that is intangible that you're grateful for. Yeah, I'm so thankful I have my health. My legs work and I don't have that disease that's going around, the virus that's going around. I am grateful for the weather. And we are in Southern California, and that's something almost every day we're grateful for. I love it. And grateful for my ability to work, my job, my profession, my business. So write down one thing tangible, one thing intangible, and then write down a person that you're thankful for. Could be a spouse, it could be a grandparent, it could be, someone in government or someone from history. But the name of a physical person that you're grateful for. Might be a mentor that you had. And then the last thing is to let them know that you're grateful for them. So it might be you just call a sister or a brother and say, you know what? Maybe we've had some differences, but I'm just really grateful for you. I love you. And I'm just, glad you're in my life. Might be a friend. It might be an old friend back from school days. Might be someone that you served in the military with. It might be someone that you played sports with or performed music with. But someone that you're grateful for. It may be an old scout leader, right? It might be someone right now, the person that you work next to in the next cubby or on the next Zoom meeting these days.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just really grateful we get to work together. So I would say to you, Carlos, I'm so grateful that we get to work together. You make me look good on film, and you know how to get the word out to people. And it's so fun to work with you, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. So the challenge.
Right back at you. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Something you're grateful for that's tangible, that you can see and touch, something you're grateful for that's not tangible, a person you're grateful for, and then let them know. If it's someone who's no longer with us or you don't have their address, write a letter anyway, a little note, little thank you note. You can put it on a yellow sticky, and then you don't even have to send it, right? Maybe there's no address for them, but just someone you're grateful for. It might be someone that, a relative that isn't no longer with us, but I think doing that for a week, writing a few things down every day for a week will be very valuable. And I'd love to hear from viewers next week how that went for them. What happened out of that. That's going to be a really fun conversation. There's your challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, you've heard the challenge. Please follow JudyCopenbarger.com. She's also got an offer at JudyCopenbarger.com/truth. The challenge has been set, folks. We are going to post this also on social media because we want to get as much comments as possible for us to be able to go over next week's show as well too. So we're coming to the end of the show. Judy, as always, thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for sharing a lot of the great content and sharing with folks too how to really just ease our fears regarding finance. I think you brought up some great key points, and as always, it's been such valuable information. So I want to, on behalf of everyone, I want to say thank you very much for that.
My pleasure, Carlos.
Okay, guys. Well, we'll see you guys next Tuesday, 8 a.m. for more Money Truth Moments with Judy Copenbarger. Until then, you got the challenge. Make sure you put your comments on there because we will be posting this on social media. So until next week, we'll see you guys.